Welcome to the Formed by Jesus podcast. In Nehemiah 3, we see ordinary people coming together to rebuild the walls of their city. Priests, merchants, families, and servants all take part in the work. Some take on heavy burdens. Others work diligently behind the scenes. But together, they create both a wall and a culture that would outlive them. Throughout this series, we've been talking about the kind of church we want to become as we build our future home. To keep our culture consistent for generations to come, we must continue becoming homegrown. A church community that actually participates in the work God is doing among us by each doing our part piece by piece. Hello, Pastor Caleb. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
You know, just my back hurts from carrying this podcast.
Yeah. That's like the third time you've used that joke, but you use it earlier and earlier in the podcast each time.
Yes.
And for now, all you did was read the overview that I wrote.
And just ask
who's carrying this podcast, really?
Of the sermon I wrote. So,
Sure.
What if we give away you were the ghost writer for all of this? For every single sermon I've ever preached.
You can't give it away. No, awful.
All right, everybody. I really enjoyed Nehemiah 3. Upon first glance, if you read Nehemiah 3, you're like, what is this? Is there anything you can get out of it? But it's beautiful, and it's a really cool picture of the church. And I especially enjoyed the tie to Ephesians 4. Because you just can't help but think, I just can't help but wonder, or we know, Paul's mind is just completely saturated with the Old Testament in ways that ours is not. And so I'm not saying he was directly tying from Nehemiah 3, but just that idea of all of us, each individual part doing its work. That has always been, that's an Old Testament narrative that we see come to fruition as well through the person of Jesus Christ and his church.
Yeah. I think it is interesting that there's no... You said it a good way. Paul, it's probably not likely that he's specifically winking and nodding to Nehemiah. I almost said Nehemiah. But I think it is likely that he's got that's just the story, the framework of it is interesting when you replace the background noise, that's the end result of meditating on the scriptures is the background noise that automatically plays in your mind gets replaced by just the story of your people and God's people and of God and of you and your place in the story, so that when you go and write something like a letter to a church, that's just what comes out. I think it is, there's a very clear connection.
Which in our Formed by Scripture practice, we kept saying we don't want to just think about Scripture, which itself is a huge goal, but we want to get to the point where we think Scripture. And so that's the point there.
Yeah.
I even love that Revelation, if you see there's a million callbacks to the Old Testament that the Apostle John is just thinking about, and of course empowered by the Holy Spirit. What are some just general initial takeaways before we kind of go through the list I put together of what we should talk about?
Is that a dig? The list I put together. Yeah, there it is. No, it was good. I think it's funny how we talked about this last week. The different genealogies and the lists in the Bible all communicate different things. So you have the genealogy in Matthew is doing something very intentional. The genealogy in Genesis 10, I think, the lineage from Adam all the way down to Noah is doing something very unique. And this one's not a genealogy, but it is a very specific list. And I really liked the point at the end you made about the reason, if the Bible is inspired by God and God breathed and all of that, then these names mean something, and these names are in the Bible for a reason. And it's not just to serve as a historical record. I think that's how a lot of people approach anything that gets really specific in the Bible is they think, this is just here to prove that this is true. It's just factual historical data. But I think narratively, that might be true, but also narratively, this emphasis on these are the individual names of everybody who participated and their families. These are God's people doing this. It's not anybody else. It's not, they had outside help, but really it's each one of these names matters. And I think that's so powerful for the story of the Bible so far, is that everybody's coming into something that is already happening. They're all contributing towards something. And it's a really powerful moment.
Wouldn't that be contrary to a lot of literature of this time as well? The Jewish people put an emphasis on the people versus the Persians or the Greeks, the mythology. It's this one guy who would come in and do all of this mighty, miraculous, powerful thing, but you never really exalt a man like that in the Old Testament.
Right.
It's the family. It's all of us together.
There are no Jewish demigod figures.
Right.
The same way that you have in Babylonian literature or like other Mesopotamian literature, Egyptian
Like making
literature.
a golden statue for Nebuchadnezzar.
Right.
You don't have
yeah,
that.
exactly. There's none of that, which part of it is the Jews are singularly unique and in this time of human history because of their claim that there actually exists only one God.
Monotheistic.
It's actually not, I got called out on this by my Old Testament professor. I forget what it is. There's another term. It's not monotheistic because monotheism is you only worship one God. But there's something else that basically says, no, there are no other gods that exist. It's not monotheism, it's something else. But yeah, it's that idea that they were wholly unique because they didn't have these like divine, like where divinity meets humanity is in the temple and it's not in a person until we get to Jesus. But in the Old Testament, it is this
But then
collective.
we are the temple.
And I think the Jews have this collective identity that doesn't quite exist at the same degree in other, like, I don't know if this is entirely true, but I think the Jews are unique in that their communal identity means more than it does for like the Egyptians' communal identity or whatever.
Right.
It was there. That's kind of what you're saying.
When Abraham Joshua Heschel, am I getting the name right?
Yeah.
He argues the reason the Jewish people have existed through, like, for the majority of the time, they haven't owned their land,
Right.
you know, but they've existed because they have these practices like Sabbath that like bonds them together in ways that other cultures, other societies just didn't. And so the moment those walls came down, the whole society just vanished, but not the Jewish people.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Homegrown.
Homegrown, folks. And I do think it goes back to the power of culture. So the intro was about the power of culture. That is honestly, I think, the biggest reason. I don't think you do this at all, but I'm still about sports talk radio and like hearing about the teams. And it's really about like culture and what is the head coach doing to inspire the team. This guy's talented, like Kevin Durant, great player, toxic to the culture of Phoenix Suns. You think on paper they would be better, but they wound up being way worse. Like all that stuff I find really fascinating. And then learning like the Lakers are always kind of Showtime. Like it's just cool to see culture. And I do feel like we're getting more and more, what's the phrase? Like a monolithic culture, like with the internet. Where like places aren't as like unique. Like there's a Starbucks everywhere now. There's a or whatever, but it's still cool to see. There's still these like pockets of culture in different places and spaces. But priorities are what shape culture. And this is how I'm bringing in AI, because you asked earlier.
Great.
We've developed a note on like iPhone, iCloud, so that like, oh, I have some ideas. That way we don't just get together and
Wing it.
wing it. Although we're
Which
pretty
we
good at
kinda
winging
do
it
anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I put in here priorities and AI. Here's what I want to put forth. I think we're in a cultural moment where our priority has been for over a century productivity over people, right? Profit over people. And so why are we so terrified AI's going to take over? Because we all know we value productivity over like people. So I think if we were in a different culture, we would be asking different questions and going, what if this takes away people's joy of working and being a part of something? Let's not do this anymore, even though this would like make us go further faster. But we have a bigger priority than just pure productivity.
I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that. That's interesting. I thought you was going to be like, AI, because we're so obsessed with productivity. That's why AI exists and why we're so attached
That too.
to it.
Yeah.
Is because it makes us work more efficiently, but we don't, but at the expense of something. We don't know quite what that expense is. It depends on how people are using it and things like that. But we are outsourcing some part of our capacity to create or to do or to work to something that's not human in a way that we've never been able to do before. So Andy Crouch has that helpful thing where there's a difference between technology and a tool.
Yeah.
And like technology, I forget what his
He called it like
distinction is.
like modern day magic.
It's basically
right?
modern day magic in that it can function on its own without you, essentially. Not in like a weird, creepy AI way, but just in the sense that it can do a task for you. Whereas a tool, you're
like
still
a machine.
the one.
You're still
Exactly.
operating.
Yeah, like the difference between a
tractor
or like an actual hand plow or something like
Yeah.
that. And so the thing with AI is it does outsource. There is a part of you that it is outsourcing, and most people are using it for the sake of efficiency, to where it's something in you, a muscle or an emotive response or some intellectual capacity is not getting worked as much.
Right.
And so, yeah, that
Andy
is
Crouch was, I think he said that's why when you go on an airplane, like airport travel day is just exhausting.
Yeah.
Because like your body is literally going at a faster at a rate that you weren't designed to do, but yet you're doing nothing.
Right.
Like it's just this weird
disconnect.
And so like with creating, if you're just using AI to create everything, you're actually, this is really we're losing a theology of work and the beauty of work. Like doing the creative act or doing the work is in itself a gift. And we're like, no, that's a curse, which goes back to Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes, like, oh, maybe life is all about work. And he does that. And he's like, oh, that's vain. Maybe life's all about vacations and rest. And he just does that. And he goes, oh, that's vanity as well. So I just think that's interesting.
Yeah. How did that connect to Nehemiah?
So priorities, I think priorities shape the
see.
culture of people.
Yeah.
So then like what we're dealing with, if you get down to root cause, it's like, well, we've made this a priority. We've acted like this is the number one thing.
Yeah.
I think there's a connection.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like if we truly have a different priority of like people first, we probably would like throttle down AI in some areas.
Yes. Culturally, you're saying if our culture valued individuals more, then we wouldn't be using AI as much.
Right. Like there's a reason we're fearful because we all know like
it's taking
there's
over.
no stop to this because we know this is.
Yeah. We've created something we can't manage and that will outproduce us. It'll output us.
Have you read Deep Work by Cal Newport?
No.
I really enjoyed that book. I read it while I was writing my first book. I say my first. We wrote our second one together, technically. So, the 9 Practices book, my first book. And I had so much joy just writing it.
Yeah.
And that book was informative because it's like, sure, we can make a book. You and I could like give some AI prompts and like make a book today. But the joy of creating and hitting walls and obstacles, that's the joy, you know. Hopefully it blesses people, but just the art of work itself, deep work, not shallow work, is a lost art.
It's interesting. Have you seen there's that clip, this might be worded in different worlds, Diplo has that clip where he's a famous producer, music producer.
Yeah, I have no idea who that is.
You've heard, if you've heard any song in the last like 20 years on the radio, you've heard Diplo. Okay, you have. No, he has this thing where he's talking about, he's basically making a case for AI, and the whole thing is like, look, the consumer at a large level, consumers want the best product, not the most human product, and sometimes what can feel cheap and artificial is actually objectively better than what humans can produce. And so artists need to start using AI if they want to start selling their work and surviving in this market, because the live music industry is like kind of at a weird place right now. And I have a lot of theories about that and why that is, and like financial situations and things like that. So if musical artists want to survive, it's you have to coddle to AI. You have to like conform your music and use this tool for the sake of the consumer. So I think that plays into what you're saying, and that like, is the goal in life to create beauty or to create like profit?
Right.
Or is it to produce something, or is it just to produce something? What is measured? Like, how is output measured? What is your metric for like success? And I think that's why you have so many people, whether they would use this language or not, veering back towards like the Orthodox Church or the Catholic Church, because, and largely I think the Protestant church is behind the curve on this a little bit.
Sure.
But these sort of ancient, like very ancient traditions have always prioritized and structured and oriented themselves around what philosophers have called the transcendentals, goodness, truth, and beauty, those 3 things. And so you have these old ancient churches that have aimed their sights at that rather than at the consumer. And so like where the Protestant church is aiming at the consumer, it's kind of like Diplo saying these musicians need to aim at the consumer and just use AI for the sake of being more productive and producing something even better. So the priorities get all shifted.
Yeah. I think we're at the risk of losing our
audience's
attention because of what I'm about to introduce. But again, Andrew Root's book, Baal and the Gods of More, like finishing up, he's the one who makes the argument we've made everything boil down to GDP, like productivity and growth. But then he points to like Old Testament, and he points to Baal or Baal, and that's just like a god of fertility. And it's just like growth at all costs. You have Artemis, growth at all costs. So it's kind of going back to some similar things we've been talking about before. But you have the God of the Bible who, like, a desert wandering is a beautiful thing. But we in our world have no concept. A desert is something you have to get out of as fast as possible. But in the Old and New Testament, the deserts where the pruning, the purging, the refining happens. And you don't want to miss that, actually, because you're getting closer to the presence of God. It doesn't produce fertility.
Right.
But it does produce the presence,
It's why we can't reconcile like there's just what you're saying, and I think what Andrew Root's arguing is that that's a human problem. Like it's innate to us,
Yes.
not a Western or an Eastern problem. Since the exile, or since the wandering in the desert, 40 years, humans are wired to produce because of, I think, Genesis 1 and 2. That desire gets warped by the fall in Genesis 3. I think that's why the curse that God gives is that you're going to work and it's going to be hard. You're going to toil after satisfaction that used to come as a byproduct of your work. Now you're going to have to try and strive for it. What you see, I think, is, oh man, I had a connection. I just lost it. Anyways, all this to say, oh yeah, so that's why people have a hard time reconciling God's love and suffering, is because we assume God's desire for me is my progress, and suffering is a block to that progress, or waiting. Patience is the hardest virtue for us because at a soul level, we're primed towards progress and towards output. And anything that slows that or stops that must be like evil or of the devil or not of God or whatever.
Yeah. And I'm struck by Nehemiah's story. It looks like it never gets easier for him. It always gets harder. Like even beyond we'll look this Sunday, the completion of the wall. But then read Nehemiah 7 through 13, which you're going to help cover. Life just gets harder and harder. There's more and more suffering. And yet there's beauty in the midst of all of it, especially when intimacy with Jesus is the goal.
Yeah, good stuff.
So next on the list.
So AI.
Yeah. And so, I just thought Nehemiah 3 was fun to look at. And go ahead.
I was going to say that actually there's a really easy segue from this into the next topic, okay. I think. If you...
Please.
The next question then, if you go from, okay, we want to produce, and we're not saying producing is bad and like being productivity is good. Yeah, the overreaction is to say we're going to be totally holistically monastic and like we're not pretty, but even the monks
not
worked.
build a building.
Not build a building. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to be productive, and you shouldn't be successful in your business. You should. What we are saying though is that our end goal can't be productivity for productivity's sake. We want to aim our efforts at something that transcends just a building that's impressive or a large attender base or whatever. So the next question, naturally, I think that we've been leading towards is like, how do people participate? Like, how do we then do our part? How do we become a list of names in our version of Nehemiah where we're building something together? And we're in the middle of a building campaign, so there's a really practical way you can do that, which we will talk about. But I think over the course of just the life of the church, that's why Paul uses the language of spiritual gifts to equip, to help people understand when you show up to your local church gathering every week, it's not one person's job. It's not a Gilgamesh thing. It's always been that. Sorry, that was a random throw-out line, but it's not one person's job to make this thing happen. It wasn't just Nehemiah. That's never how God's people have worked. It's the collective body. And because of that, God has designed the body in such a way that it can be self-sustained by the people within it, because God has given everybody in it a spiritual gift.
And even the word gift and spiritual gift is from the root word charis, grace. So it's like these grace gifts. They are given to us by God for the building up of people. I like how Peter talks about it. Some are given this, some are given that, but all of it is according to his grace. And so what you're saying is in Nehemiah, God graced these people with different abilities, different income levels to contribute, and it's like beautiful because everybody did their work piece by piece.
Boom.
Were you about to say something? You like Googled something? So
no, I was just pulling up some passages. Just so I have a framework. 1 Corinthians 12.
So here's, and I think it's worth talking about spiritual gifts, and probably it's obviously its own. We've preached on this before. We've gone through 1 Corinthians. This isn't something we've never not addressed, but we're about to do 5 minutes on it. It deserves more than that. But like personally, here's like a couple random thoughts I have about spiritual gifts. I do believe you get them when you're saved, right? You have the Holy Spirit in you. I do believe it's about stewarding, and God can gift you with more of that gift or more gifts. I also think, and here's my story. I fell in love with reading the Bible, and I prayed for my spiritual gift every day. And about a year to 15 months in, it's like I had like a revelation that it would be pastoring. But then, like I said on Sunday, I wasn't like, cool, I have to be a pastor. It's like I was already serving the church and happy to do it. So what I'm trying to get to is I have found the people who are they just know their call is to serve and love the church wherever there's a need. It seems like God is very generous in helping them truly discern, okay, here's another level of ways that you can serve. What I haven't seen is someone going, I can't serve anywhere until I know what my gift and skill sets are. Do you believe that there is a commonality between skill sets and gifts where it's like, oh, like the whole idea of like, I mean, you were not a believer, you naturally good at teaching. So now that you got saved, your gift is teaching. Or does it need to be something dramatically different to show that this was like a gift from God? But doesn't God give gifts to all mankind? So is there like a seed there?
Yeah. I don't know that parsing it out to that level is helpful.
Right. But I know it's what people think.
But that's what people think. Yeah. I think people have this idea that like the spiritual gifts are not superpowers.
That's great.
It's not like you get saved and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can like shoot webs out of my hands and like, oh, my gift is like being invisible. It's not. That's like how we visualize it. It's almost like these like superhuman attributes that we get, which it is superhuman in the sense that like it seems to what Paul describes is it seems like in our human capacity, the Spirit empowers us to do certain things with a higher degree of like kingdom result. So like for the sake of the body, because that's the whole theme of 1 Corinthians 12, Paul says, there's different gifts, but the same Spirit distributes them. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but in all of them and in everyone, it is the same God at work. Now, to each one, the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. To one, there is given through the Spirit a message of wisdom. To another, a message of knowledge by means of the same Spirit. To another, faith by the same Spirit. To another, gifts of healing by that one same Spirit. To another, miraculous powers. To another, prophecy. So he lists these gifts that seem to be like, when you get saved, your goal is to participate in the body of believers by using whatever it is that God has empowered you to do. So I think it could be that you were a teacher before you got saved, and now the Spirit's just working through that in a way that he wasn't working through before. I think that's okay. I think other times, though, people do get like through a process of discernment. I don't think it's random. And I do think that it is something you have to like practice at. So like healing, for example, like it seems like God's people are able to heal, but those with the spiritual gift of healing might just be able to do it more often and with more like success, quote unquote. Or the same thing with prophecy. I think when Paul describes prophecy in 1 Corinthians 13 and 14, he's talking about something that all believers can pray for and can try and practice. But it seems like to some, God gives an extra ability to do it just better than everybody else.
Yeah, which I've seen in the life of our church. There's some people, it just seems like, it's crazy to me and I love it and I'm very grateful. Teaching. Mm-hmm. Like, just because like I believe that I have that gift, that doesn't mean I'm not studying. We're not working on our craft.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely. Also, like Romans 12 mentions giving as a gift. That doesn't mean like, oh,
I don't have the gift of giving.
This is not my gift. Or like evangelism. Like, oh, that's not my... We're still called to do all those things.
Yeah. I actually don't think that there's a set... This is the problem. One of the problems that I have with these like online spiritual gift assessments. A lot of times, and I did this in college, and it was really helpful for me and in youth and things like that at the time. But you get this thing where it's like you can go online, pay for a certain thing, and you can take basically a personality test, but it's to help you discern your spiritual gift. And I think there's good intention behind it. Some of the questions are really helpful. Like when I pray for people, things seem to happen. It's like, that's a good question to ask. The problem is, one is I actually don't think that there's a set defined like list of spiritual gifts. I think we do have lists, but I don't think they're comprehensive. Like I think there's actually room for people to exercise gifts that might not be on here. And that gets tricky if your idea of spiritual gifts is that they're defined superpowers. But if your idea of a spiritual gift is that it's just you using your skill set in a way that's more empowered by the Spirit, then I think there is room for things that aren't necessarily on these lists. These spiritual gifts inventories are really tricky too, because I think the best way of actually discerning your spiritual gift is in community.
Right.
Which is, I think, what you were saying. There's like, you need to serve in whatever capacity you're able and where there's a need. And then over time, your community can distinguish, like, actually, homegrown. Yeah, exactly. That's why we're saying homegrown is such a priority for us, is we want to be able to see how God is using you. So the prayer team is a great example of this, where like we formed our prayer team based on who we saw operating in certain gifts of the Spirit. We said, it seems like when this person prays, things happen.
Yeah.
And so that person, they might have a gift of some kind. We want to give them an outlet for that. Or when this person says a word of prophecy, it's actually crazy how specific it is to this. So like God's using that.
Yeah.
So these gifts are discerned in community.
But we also make sure all of those people know I'm not 100% accurate.
Right.
Not 100% guarantee. It's like they're faithful stewards and hey, I could be wrong here.
Just like
this
teaching.
is what I'm sensing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I even love Peter's spirit in 1 Peter 4. It's just one of my favorite chapters in the whole New Testament, to be honest. But he says, above all, love each other deeply because love covers over a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. I think that's like the foundation. It's not a platform. These gifts aren't a platform. It is a way to serve people. Because then verse 10, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. And I love the various. It can be so many, as you just said, there's not a perfect list. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God, which is terrifying. We should tremble at that. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides. We could just think about that. When we serve, even just on a Sunday morning context, what a great rhythm to say, God, I want to serve based off the strength you provide. This is also in Nehemiah and Ezra. God strengthened their hands to do the work. God stirred their hearts toward the work. And so that's been my prayer as we're looking at Commitment Sunday and we're looking at beyond. We're going to have a challenging 5 Sundays in the summer because of set up tear down limitations in the school. We're going to have these moments. I think it's every day if we're really aware of like, God, I need you to strengthen my hands and to stir my heart because in my own power, I need your grace to cover me and to empower me.
Yeah.
I love how I think grace is often packaged as, I remember I preached it one time. I had like a little trayism with it, but essentially we often just think of grace as forgiveness, which yes and amen, but it's also empowerment. It's the ability to, because God has graced you. I was talking to a friend of mine who is at a pretty high up position at an institution. And it's interesting with him, he was like, oh, I realized it was my time to move on because I no longer had a grace over me when it came to this position. Things that used to be easy or I found enjoyable. He's like, I don't have that grace on me anymore. Now he has a paradigm where sometimes there's seasons of suffering where things are hard, but in the part of the discernment process and other people saying it's time to move on, what helped him is to realize God hasn't been strengthening my hand to do this work because he has been showing me a new work that he's going to strengthen my hands for.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Saul thing. Like Saul was pretty successful early on. And then as he continues to abandon God and seek after and make sacrifices to other gods and things like that, it seems like what the Old Testament describes as like the Spirit of God empowering is what maybe the New Testament would call just grace. I don't know if that's biblically accurate. There might be some like super high theologian watching this podcast that would disagree with me. But it seems like it's that kind of thing where Saul abandoned God and God's grace left him. Like he was less successful in battle and he was less successful in his like rule and his reign. He was kind of losing that. The empowering presence of God left him.
Right.
And I think for us as believers, we don't lose the Spirit in us.
Good.
But I think we can limit what God is able to do through us, through our disobedience, our stubbornness, our unwillingness to give where we need or serve where we need, to hold on to control. I think that's another big thing. It's the living by the Spirit thing is like one of the things that most often prevents us from living in step with the Spirit is our need for control. And it seems like that's what one of the first things that you have to practice letting go of. There's a tiny little book. I think it's in the Power of the Spirit by Jacques Philippe, where he talks about that, and he talks about that's the one thing. If you want to live in step with the Spirit, you want to use your spiritual gifts, you want to actually be productive, or productive in the sense that you're contributing to the body, and you want God to use you to an increasing level, to an increasing degree, you will eventually have to give up control over your image, your reputation, your preferences, your self-preservation, your opinions, your thoughts. Like all of that has to become for the sake of another. And that's really the only way this works.
That's a lot of the Sunday, but even the beginning of the year, I don't remember which of the Vision series, but I talked about how the Paraclete is like a parachute in that we're like, we have seen God move the most when we step out in faith. There's an element of risk. You're not certain. you know, and that's what vision is. There's gaps. There's not full certainty. Like right now, is God going to provide us through our people and maybe other outside means $2.5 million in 2 years? We can't say that for certain at all, but we do have enough conviction to know this is the step we're called to take, and we're trusting him. Someone in our congregation, I hung out with them recently, and they were like, we're filled with faith that this is going to happen, but we're also filled with faith that if it takes 10 years, God is still going to use us. And I was like, 10, doing the math of 10 years, but I love the heartbeat of that, of like, that goal is a goal, and we're aiming for it and praying for it, and we're going to celebrate it. But there's also a bigger picture here that we don't want to lose sight of. I also love, I talked to somebody, I don't think I told you this yet, someone I hung out with. I want to keep everybody, even when I brag on people, I'm assuming they don't want me to say who they were. But someone I know, I was like talking to them recently, and I was kind of bummed because they're like, oh yeah, we're going to go out of town the weekend of Commitment Sunday. And it's like, we get that. And that's actually why the 24th, if you weren't there, you can come and make sure you drop off the commitment card. That's why we have Celebration Sunday on the 31st. But he was like, but we're leaving at 6 a.m. on Sunday to make sure we get back on time, because it's like a 3.5 hour drive. And they're like, we're going to make it in time for the 10:15. I was like, I just love, again, the picture of Nehemiah 3, and it's because of the grace of God. There's a group of people like bought in and committed, even to the point where they're waking their family up super early in the morning to make sure to be a part of like this really special occasion. And that just really just encouraged me and stirred my heart.
Yeah. I think what we're saying is there's room to participate, and we're not aiming our sights at productivity for productivity's sake. It's almost like the opposite of productivity as a priority is like being homegrown and like focusing on our people. And we do want to be productive and move forward. I think it's one of the things that drew me.
Because of the mission.
Because of the mission, yeah. That's one thing that drew me to why I wanted to work for a church plant when I graduated college, was that I wanted to be a part of something that was actually going to move forward, and that I thought there was an end goal and like an agenda and like an objective, and I really liked that beyond just like, well, just share your faith and see what happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's great, but I want to be a part of something.
When a family of people get together to conquer something, do you feel the need to give your side of the story on Sunday when I was talking about how we hired you?
The only thing I want to clarify is I wasn't just in Yuma. I was from Tucson.
I could tell the Yuma thing.
To some people might be worse than Yuma. I was visiting my family who lived in Yuma for a couple months in transition, but I went to college in Tucson, had graduated. Everything else, though, was accurate. There was it was like I had no money. You saying we have no money, but do you want to come was true. But really, it was like, we can't pay you.
Yeah.
It's not
but
like
you can support Raise.
You could support Raise, and like, we're going to help you out as much as we can. So yeah, the
and
interview,
I was working for a job, so it's not like I wasn't.
You weren't like
feeling bad about. I was like, here's the reality that we're in.
Riding high and just kind of kicking. No, it was, the phone call was like, you were a lot more energetic. I think both of us were more energetic then. Maybe I wasn't.
Oh man, yes.
But it was like, hey man, tell me your story. Tell me your testimony. Why church plant? Like, what are you pumped about? Like, what gets you excited in the morning? And I was like, hey, who are you? No, that was the first time we met. And you asked me my testimony. You asked me why I wanted to work for the church plant, what I wanted to do. You mentioned the college ministry, and you're like, well, look, Zhang told you support Raise, but we'd love to have you. And I was like, great. And then that was kind of it. And I remember my parents, I don't think they ever said this, but I could tell they were a little like, what are you going to do again? What is this again? Like I had my bachelor's degree. I had an internship. I had all, I was seminary set up. I had a life ahead of me that I just threw away so that I could be here. But they were very much supportive, but just a little bit like, what is this again? Queen what? Queen Creek? Where is that? What even is that?
That's funny.
Yeah. Anyways.
What a time. What a time. To start landing the plane, we do want to apologize. First of all, we did not ask for a comment. So nobody left a comment because we didn't ask for it. But let's talk about Commitment Sunday a little bit. Yeah. Just logistic wise.
The comment could be the amount that you're given. Just no, it was a joke. We're not going to do that.
Yeah. Can you make sure you say it louder that was a joke?
We're not going to do that. That was a joke. That's not how it's going to work. Should we talk through how Commitment Sunday is going to work?
Yeah, but those videos, you've been the comedic relief throughout. It's been pretty funny, story. Yeah, people have caught on it too.
We
Okay.
also winged that.
Yeah, we did.
So
No, I had a list on notes.
You did.
Exactly what we're doing right now.
I'm the one who just shows up and talks.
Yes.
Man, all right.
Yeah, I actually had a lot of
through
thought through the different parts of each story. I'm a little bitter that my videos on YouTube aren't performing well. Like I'm just like posting those individually.
Yeah. Plug them here. Tell them to go
Go
watch
to my
those.
channel, Trey Van Camp. Anyways, even though you've already seen it at church, what's Commitment Sunday going to look like, Pastor Caleb?
Yes. Commitment Sunday is the day that we've kind of been aiming at and mentioning and kind of alluding to over the past few weeks. Since we started this campaign, the goal has been 100% participation, meaning we want everyone to participate. Ideally, that means financially, but also you can participate in a variety of ways. But we can't ignore the financial part. And so this Sunday, we're gonna have a time dedicated to that financial part of participation. What we're gonna do is invite everybody who has the commitment card to bring it on Sunday.
So we'll have them there in case you don't.
In case you don't have one or you lost it or whatever, you can grab one there. If you have it filled out already, we're still going to give time in the service for those who have and for those who haven't to actually look over it and pray over it. So there's going to be literally like, we're going to like, it might be weird. I don't know. There's going to be music. We're going to stop and say, seriously, we mean this. Do this now. Like pray over this and ask God and fill it out with whatever you feel like is right and wise between you and your family and things like that.
Yeah, I would lean towards filling it out ahead of time. That way, I think it could be a special time of prayer where you're really praying big prayers of faith before coming forward.
But the idea is that it's designed to help you kind of like literally not just throw a number on a page, but actually see like what your 2-year commitment, how it breaks down and what it actually looks like.
Praying and planning like Nehemiah.
Yeah, exactly. You pray over it, but you also need a plan. And you can't just throw money at the air or whatever. And then we're gonna have a time where we invite people. We say, "Okay, come to the front," and they're gonna walk this up, and we'll have boxes, so your name will be on it, just so we can track. But no one else is gonna see your name, so you'll just drop it in the box. It's not like it's gonna be there for everyone to see. We're not gonna say like, "Oh, this person," whatever.
Right.
It's just, yeah, it'll be a moment of being like all of us symbolically saying we're in this together, like we're participating. Here's our piece. It's like our version of what you said on Sunday, Nehemiah 3, where this person next to this person.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. That math is there for you to work through. I think we're gonna explain that again on Sunday, right? Read it. It's all the words are there to help you. But we also know that we probably need to continue to help. But that blue in the blue box, that's the big final number right there, in that white box in the blue background. So, we're praying that we get as close, if not let's pray to exceed our goal.
I've been praying that.
You're like, what are you?
What do you mean? What kind of prayers are you praying?
All right. Well, what is the comment of the day?
Should it be something AI? That was like halfway through, right?
So, okay. Claude or Chat GPT? What you comment is the one you want
use?
to use, you like more.
I am curious. I would love to add that to our next survey. How many people are using AI? What does it look like? Just typically.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, because what if they don't ever use any of it? What do they comment? You know?
Then comment, I don't use AI and I'm better than you.
Yes.
Those are your bragging
comment,
rights.
I'm better than you.
Yeah, just I'm better than you. That's good.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. See you Sunday.